Hey everybody, what's going on? Today, the watch is Traska Venturer GMT version 2 with a sliding clasp. Okay, let's go. So, for the specifications of this watch, on Traska, it has a listed diameter of 38.5. I measured it at 38.7. It has a listed thickness of 10 millimeters, excluding the crystals. When I measured the whole thickness, it was 12.5, which basically means that it has a heavily boxed crystals with a thickness of 2.5, and the rest of the watch being about 10 millimeters thick. Lug to lug is listed as 46, and I measured it exactly at 46, so that's good to go. And it has a lug width of 20, starting at the top, and then it basically tapers down to 16 as the usual. As far as the movement itself, it has Miura 9075, so it's a true GMT or traveler's GMT. And on top of that, it has a second crown, which adjusts the inner rotating bezels. You can see, and it's bi-directional. So either way, you could kind of rotate the inner bezels to either be a timer or maybe even put a third time zone. So I think that's it. Actually, no. This one is version 2, so it has a sliding clasp, adjustable clasp. I believe there's 5 positions, with each position being 1.5 millimeters apart. The version 1 didn't have it, it just had micro adjustments on it. So the total for this particular watch, which is version 2, is listed at $720, which is what I bought it for. And I think I bought it around November, somewhere around that time. And then the versions without the sliding clasp, the version 1, pretty much the same watch without the clasp, originally came out at $695. So you're talking about a $25 difference between the version with just the micro adjustment versus the version with the sliding clasp. The pros of this watch, there are a few pros that I want to talk about. Overall, I think this is a very, very perfect watch for, especially for the price point of $700. So the main pro, I love the design. The design, to me, it's a very, very original design. It's not your usual diver or a explorer homage, which is like the rage nowadays. It has to me, a very unique design that kind of stands out from the crowd. And on top of that, the dial itself, it's a very, very glossy black, which I don't have in my collection. I have more of a matted black dials in my collection. So that glossy black is what I was looking for. So to me, it's great. And on top of that, the glossy black kind of plays with the applied indices, the shiny stick hour markers that you see there. And to me, those two combo work really well, along with the fact that that glossy black with the accents of red that you see, so the GMT is printed in red, along with the 4th GMT hour hand has a pointer that is accentuated in red as well. So my favorite color combination is black and red. So to me, this watch is absolutely perfect when it comes to the aesthetics. And on top of that, talking about the aesthetics, the crystals is heavily boxed, as I mentioned before. And because it's so heavily boxed, the edges or the sloping that occurs on the actual crystals tends to create a little bit of a distortion, and it doesn't align perfectly, but it kind of plays around with the inner rotating bezels that you see on the outside or on the outskirts of the dial. Because it falls along the edge, meaning the actual sloping and the distortion that the crystal causes, and then the actual inner rotating bezels is actually on the outside of the edge. It kind of plays around with that inner rotating bezel, which I really, really like. And it also creates a little bit of a vintage look. And anytime it creates a vintage look, I'm all for it. So what else? Far as another pro, which is a heavy, heavy pro, is the comfort of this watch is tremendous. So it is listed as 10. Well, the total measurement is 12.5, but it has a lug that is slightly curved, has a really short lug to lug, and on top of that, the case back is flat. It's flat, which I really, really like. So what tends to happen is that with the female end links, with a really flat case back, along with the slightly curved lugs, it lays on your wrist like you know, like you're coming home and your dog is just laying on your lap or something like that. It just lays on your wrist and it feels really, really comfortable. And I think that's a huge plus. And as far as the bracelet itself, it's fully articulating, as you see here. Therefore, just like the dog reference that I used before, it just lays on your wrist and is amazingly comfortable. And I think that's a huge, huge, huge plus. And I cannot accentuate that enough, because a lot of the times watch I purchase and it looks great. And however, when I wear it around my wrist, it feels awful and I just can't wear it anymore. And that usually leads to me flipping it. As far as the cons, let me go over the cons really quickly. There are not that many. Maybe I'm nitpicking here and there, but there are some cons. You know, no watch is perfect. So let me kind of quickly go over those. The clasp. Now, it's it's a sliding clasp, so you could adjust it on the fly. However, I think what that is doing is it's making it really hard for me to close this clasp. I have to put a decent amount of pressure on it. I don't know if you're able to kind of see that. Yeah, I have to put a decent amount of pressure on this particular clasp. Now, I don't know if it's because this is a sliding clasp that every version 2 has this issue, or whether it's just this particular watch that I got has this issue. But I definitely do need to put a little bit of a pressure to close this clasp. Now, when I do it in this fashion, it's a lot easier than me trying to do it like this. Then I cannot really line it up properly. So you see I'm putting pressure on it. Now it's closed. So to me, that's a definite con. And it really makes me appreciate, because the clasp, whether it's closing or opening, for a price point, this was $720, and then Steinhardt had a similar issue as far as opening it up. That was around $500. It really makes me appreciate something like San Martin, this particular watch right here that I talked about before. The clasp on this thing is crazy. You know, it's fantastic. So when you look at the San Martin, or when you look at the reviews of San Martin, everybody will start talking about the clasp and how perfect it is. You'll know the reasons as to why. Now, since I have it on my wrist, here's my shot on my, hairless cat-looking arm. My wrist is 6.5 inches. The diameter of this watch in total is 38.5, but it probably wears more like a 40, because of the fact that majority of it is dial, because the inner rotating bezels kind of matches the color of the dial on this particular version. It basically wears like a 40 millimeter on your wrist, which I don't think it's too big, but you know, it's up to your preference as far as how you like your watches to wear on your wrist. As far as another con that I have, it has a Miyota movement, so it's slightly loud. I shouldn't say even loud. You could hear it. That's the way I would phrase it. You could hear the movement sometime. It's not loud enough to be bothersome in any way, but there are certain instances on certain scenarios where if it's close to your wrist, let's say you're putting on a hat, or like you're scratching your head or something, there are certain instances where you hear the movement just being wound. Some people have experienced their inner rotating bezels kind of slipping, meaning like without them trying to adjust it, they'll see it kind of move a little bit because of the hand movements or whatever. I have not experienced it, but I just wanted to call that out. Certain people have experienced the inner rotating bezels kind of slipping on their own. I personally have not experienced it. The other con that I have is just, it's nitpicking, but it's the packaging. Like this. It's almost like they give it to you in disgust. Like, hey, just take it. I don't give a shit. Like, I actually don't like that. Because if you look at Steinhardt, which is a little bit cheaper, that's their presentation. Right? A really nice leather watch case. A box. And if you open it up, there's a whole little, enclosure and foaming, and it looks super nice. Even San Martin, which is at a lower price point, at least gives it to you in this. I'm assuming that this is fake, or maybe it's real. I'm not quite sure, but it comes in a better presentation than Traska, which is just like, just take it. Like, just take it and you're gonna like it. I actually don't like that. If you don't care about presentation when you get in the box, maybe you just throw it right away and you don't give a shit, then that's fine. But it's a definite con of mine. In conclusion, for me, this is just me personally. I bought this in November. I wore it a couple times, and I have not really have reached for this watch since probably December. And I don't know the reasons as to why, because I love the aesthetics of the watch. It's unique, it's super comfortable, but I just don't think it's doing anything for me. It's kind of like, I would say, like Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie is like super attractive to majority of the populations, and I find her attractive, like a picture attractive, but she doesn't really do too much. It's just like, oh yeah, she's really attractive, and that's pretty much it, right? My taste is more like, I would describe it to my friends as like, if you go to like a really fancy steakhouse and you look around the room, if there's a woman with a bodysuit on, that's probably my type. So it's a totally different taste that I like, and I think that's the issue with this particular watch, why I'm not really wearing it all that much. I think for majority of the people, much like Margot Robbie, especially for the price point, this is a perfect watch. For me, I don't think it is. So I'm probably going to flip it because it's been out of stock for a while, and I want to give it to somebody who's going to really, really enjoy the watch rather than just have it being sit on, on the watch case and me just saying like, I have this watch where other people don't. That to me makes no sense. So that's pretty much it. I don't have any closing, so see ya.